When my alcohol use became problematic, I knew what was going on. I was not a daily drinker. That was good news, bad news. The good news was I was able to set rules for myself. So 12 hours from a shift in nursing, I wouldn't use alcohol. If we went out after work in the morning and I had 2 glasses of wine, I would walk for 45 minutes for each glass of wine because I was terrified of harming someone. And I had gone to AA when I was very, very young and got sober, didn't drink for 28 years, didn't go to AA, you know, just lived. And then I was at a spiritual conference and looked at everybody drinking a glass of wine and went, well, hell, what's this about? You're afraid of something in a bottle. And so I had a glass of wine. And no, I did not turn into a raving alcoholic the next day. It took many years before it was problematic. And in the meantime, I went through training. I went through 3 years of education to be a spiritual director, or to be a chaplain, hospital chaplain. I also went through an educational process to be a spiritual director, and spent many, many years working in the field of addiction. If someone with a license, professional license, goes into any treatment center, the first thing that they do is they pick up the phone and they call the board. They call the State Board of Nursing. Had that happened, I would have been put immediately on 5 years of probation. It would have been a career killer for me. So, and I resented that. I resented that I didn't have the same privacy that other people did. So I was looking all over for a program that was not a 30-day program, because I will tell you that the 30-day programs they're doing now are the same as the 30-day programs I was counseling in the 70s. So what, 40 years ago, they're still doing the same thing. I also knew, and this sounds arrogant, however, I also knew I had more experience working in the field of addiction than most folks working in the field of addiction, because I got into it so early. So I've been a counselor. I was a chaplain for a program. I was a supervisor of an addiction program. So then why did I drink? That was the first question posed to me by one of my peers here at the Sanctuary, and the two of us share unbroken sobriety since we've been here. And I drank because I hurt, and I didn't know how to stop hurting. And so I was here in Arizona visiting, and I was going to go down to Tucson and check out a place. And a therapist in Phoenix says, oh my God, no you're not. You're going to the Sanctuary. You're going to the Sanctuary. You have to go to the Sanctuary. If you have to take a second out in your house, you have to go to the Sanctuary. All of the people in my life who knew where I was look up the website, and every single one of them said, Cathy, you have to go there. So what I did is, when I looked at the website, I did not read anything. I didn't read the explanation. I didn't read about the people who worked here. I didn't read about the activities, because what I needed to do was walk into somewhere where I didn't know anything. I didn't know the answers. And when I came, I was brought here at 7:30 at night. It was 20 degrees. It was cold, it was dark. I'd been traveling all day, and I sat there and said, what in the hell is a 66-year-old woman doing, standing in the middle of the desert that I don't even know where I am? So for 5 minutes, I said, you know, it's a 2-mile walk. I can make a 2-mile walk out to that road, and then I'll hitchhike. However, I didn't know where I was to even hitchhike to. So I decided to stay, and then I looked up and saw the sky. And it is the most incredible experience to see the Milky Way here. And I felt reassured. So the next morning, The next day was Friday. I saw a psychiatrist, I saw a psychologist, I had a one-to-one with Dean, I had a massage, I had everything done that in one day. And I decided that day to approach each session, every single session. I would stand outside the door and I'd put my hands up and I would say, I am willing, help me to hear. And that's all I had to do. That's all I had to do. 3 days after being here, I realized I didn't have to worry about getting it together because it wasn't my job. My job was to do the work that was presented to me, and it was the sanctuary staff's job to make that meaningful. And they did. It's the most incredible experience I've had in my entire life. When I left the sanctuary, my life was transformed. And that's a big word that I hear, and it's on the website. I did read it after I left. My life was absolutely transformed. I could actually decide I didn't want to do a behavior, make a decision, and not do it. That, first of all, I have a community that I can always come to. Second, the joy is that I know that God, as I understand God, brought me here. I've learned that it's okay to get angry, to be sad, to be fearful, to be happy, because there's reasons I have those feelings. And those reasons are not here and now reasons. So I've learned to ask myself, when is the first time I ever experienced that? So it's by going back and kind of dealing with those old stuff that I can live in a new way. And I'm so happy. I'm just so happy because I no longer have that burden. It's not so much a burden of alcohol, it's a burden of self-hate and embarrassment and feeling like I was so dishonest all the time. I no longer carry that burden. And life has become so much more wonderful. I never have lived without guilt until I came to the sanctuary. I never have lived without shame until I came to the sanctuary. So for me, it's not about sober. I do not self-identify as an alcoholic, because I'm not. I don't use alcohol, I don't use anything, and I see no need to identify myself in a way that's not true. First of all, there is not a treatment program I'm aware of anywhere that has every single day. I was meeting with professionals. I was meeting with shamanic professionals. I was meeting with psychiatrists. I was meeting with psychologists. I was meeting with counselors. I'm thinking Corey. I was meeting with people. I was meeting with people who did body work, who are so, they're professional. They're professional. So they know that when somebody has really tight muscles or whatever, they know to say, what's that about? What's that about? And I will tell you that I've written letters to friends of mine who thought I was out of my mind coming into here and saying, you tell me any program where there's a minimum of 3 one-to-ones a day. In the vast majority of treatment programs, there's 1 meeting a week with the assigned counselor, maybe 2. They do group 3 times a week. That was in addition to 3 one-to-one experiences every day. And the people who were providing those services were not, for example, the psychiatrist was Harvard educated. The psychologist came from Emory. I could not believe it. that I was in such a high class place. That's my experience of it from a therapeutic standpoint. There isn't a treatment program that I'm aware of anywhere that has the intensity that this program does, with people who are professionals at what they do. It's, again, not about the drugs anymore for any of us. It's about, I want to be sober of heart, sober of soul. The worst thing that could happen is not drinking. The worst thing that could happen is denying who I am and what I learned here and experiences I have here. I'd have to chunk off parts of myself and then I'd drink. But the worst thing would be chunking off those parts of myself.